articulating what my philosophy of teaching is seemed like a difficult task at one point in my life. It was something that they asked pre-service teachers continually, and back in those days, you felt obligated to provide a pedagogical response. However, after years of reflection and years of practice, I have discovered that my philosophy of teaching is what I do. It is my teaching in action. It is what I expect from my students, and it's what my students can expect from me. It is the things I sometimes take for granted, the things that I feel that every educator does. After all, don't all teachers expect a level of excellence from their students while providing the support that those students need to reach that level of excellence? Don't all teachers create relationships with their learners that extend beyond the academic calendar year in their classroom? Don't all teachers provide engaging, relevant education tailored to their learners while meeting the state standards? After all, isn't that what teaching is about? Isn't it the core of education? And what I've come to understand is that although those questions are not the response that are typically given before you start teaching for the philosophy of education, they are definitely what my philosophy of education is, and they are what matters in the viewpoints of my students. I teach what others might consider a difficult population of learners. I teach students who know when you are wrong, and they will call you out on it, who can identify where you're going with the lesson, which is exciting, and which are also extremely inquisitive, which some might have a problem with, and who can become extremely bored if they are not appropriately challenged. I teach SPS's profoundly gifted 6th grade learners at the Springfield Scholars Program. These learners require challenging lessons, and they also require an advanced pace, but there are also some basic foundational principles that every learner needs, including these learners. According to my learners, those educational foundation pieces are the components of the things that set me apart from others, and those are the things that help compose my teaching philosophy. You ask me, how do I know this? Well, I know this because of the fact I sought the answer to those questions. How do I know this? How do I know what I do is what I should do? How do I know that what I'm doing is effective? I sought out those answers in the people I work with. By the people I work with, I mean my students. I sought out the answers with my learners. I know that seems silly to some, but the reality is how can you make improvements on your career if you don't ask the people you work with what you can do to improve things, to make it better for them, to make you better? How can you have an impact if you don't check into that? What follows is what I do and who I am as an educator. Relationships. In my mindset, relationships are critical to learning. According to my former students, I am an advocate for them, regardless if they are my current learner or if they're a former learner. I make sure that I high-five every student in my room every day, and even my substitutes do it when I'm gone. It's the norm in our classroom. My intentions are to make the learning environment one that is fair and is great for everybody. I try to make a concerted effort to smile when I see my learners in the hallway or when I see former learners in the hallway. Sometimes I even provide a small wave. I am open to students using my classroom space after school for Science Olympiad or even a place to wait when their parents are slightly running late. I have encouraged my learners to reach out of their social shell and make friends, of which students have made lasting friendships because of my gentle nudge. Engaging lessons. I teach algebra and pre-algebra. Engaging lessons require creativity, openness about a topic, humor, and effort. It is important to model the relevance of math in everyday life, but sometimes that requires some creative efforts while being honest about how frequently a student will actually use a topic. The students truly appreciate honesty. I also modify projects so that students find them engaging, interesting, and practical. This includes a quilting project. Yes, they create designs, they create the patterns, they have to hand stitch the piecework. This also includes the water park linear functions project, where students have to collaborate and communicate together. A scale model project, and possibly some knitting in the future too, just to name a few of my projects. I also allow students to use creativity with math without my prescribed course of action. Students get to write scripts, create puppet shows, or find creative, non-boring ways to teach math topics to their peers and others. I often hear kids say, "This is cool," or "This was fun," about several math topics. However, the 6th grade scholars do have a saying, "Is it really fun, or is it Mrs. Uzzell fun?" I enjoy what I teach. The kids know this, and this helps keep them engaged in the subject. I also hear that the lighting in my room and the wiggle seats help too. Relevant. I integrate technology with content skills that are relevant for my students beyond my classroom walls. My learners learn how to use spreadsheets, write equations in spreadsheets, analyze data, which is handy for science fair participants, write discussion board postings, use video editing apps, create patterns for sewing, create models out of everyday items, and relate math to other curriculum. When I am asked why they need to know something, I don't state because you're going to be tested over it. I tell them where they're going to use it and how they're going to use that information later and how it connects to areas in the real world, not just some word problem that expects you to figure out how slow a bucket's going to leak if it has a rate of loss. I explain how topics were used previously in elementary school as an intro, and I explain how complex it can get at higher level. I help my students make and see those relevant connections. Through our affective education class time, we also discuss how important it is to learn. Not just learn something because it will be used later, but because you are changing your learning schema, finding new ways to creatively solve problems, and creating new neurological pathways. Personalized. I encourage learners to learn above me. If they come to me knowing curriculum, we find the right math class for them. If they can move at a faster pace than I am with their peers, I encourage them to move quicker. And trust me, I move quickly. I encourage them to move quicker while I provide the scaffolding and monitoring of their growth that they need. Why do I do this? Well, I really don't want someone being stifled or bored in my class. And I really don't want them not showing growth. I expect my learners to show growth. We measure growth in my class with a scale, not a point-per-point value, and sometimes more than one attempt is needed or required to show that growth, and that's okay. Students know they can attempt a lot of topics as many times as they need to show growth and to show learning, and to make those connections stronger. I've learned that this helps keep growth personal, because growth is personal and learning is personal. When I see learners that have a strong desire to know more of something, whether it be math related or not, I help find those channels that they need to learn more about it. If they're interested in math problem solving, they can join my math club, and they can join the high school math club as well. If they're interested in more science or archery or any other random activity, I help find those clubs for them, including Rubik's cubes. Yes, I created a twisty puzzle club once too for my learners. This allows our learners to personalize their learning while collaborating with their peers. It's what I am known for with Scholar students. In summary, my philosophy of education, what is it? Well, it's create lasting relationships that allow students to see you as an adult that is looking out for their best interest and their best educational interests. Once that has been established, be creative, learn from others, and make learning engaging, fun. Laugh at your own mistakes, tell stories about your content, and tell relevant life experiences about that content also. Relevant. Be realistic. Relate to the past, relate to the present, relate to the future, and personalize it. Don't be afraid that the kids will know more than you. Finally, never stop learning. Model what you expect from your students.